Hi, this is Dr. Frank with the Church of Rational Truth. Today's Sunday lecture is going to be about empathizing with an opponent or someone you were having an argument or debate with. This was spurred by a recent internet conversation or argument that I saw about cryptocurrency. Basically, I follow a subreddit that is highly critical of cryptocurrency, and someone that was somewhat pro cryptocurrency tried to argue that it was an echo chamber, that no one listened, and he made some very off-color remarks, and he ended up getting banned. But they did bring up a really good point about it being an echo chamber and having an only one-sided debate, which I think was actually pretty fair. I ended up talking with that person, and I even talked with the mod who banned him. And one of the big problems I saw with that, kind of unrelated to the debate, was that both sides were incredibly one-sided. Both sides were kind of, to put it frankly, they were acting like jerks towards each other, and that is not a good thing. That's a really, bad thing to have in terms of discourse. Whether one person is right or wrong, it's not good to just completely shut down a conversation or shut down a discussion. It is important to be civil, which I saw that part. The person was being very uncivil with it, but I think it was kind of, overall harmful to completely shut down the discussion. I think the person probably should have gotten some warning and said, please don't be so, homophobic or being so bad with personal attacks. Let's actually have this discussion and see what valid points you have. The reason I bring this up is I see all the time in very heated debates where both sides have very strong positions. You see it with atheists versus religious people. You see it with people who are pro and con for Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. You see it for anything that people hold really strong beliefs, where one side will, or both sides many times, they will just hold on to their beliefs so strongly, and then it'll go into personal attacks, it'll go into negative attacks. They completely become blocked off to the other side. And I think that is bad, because just because someone has an opposing viewpoint or you think your viewpoint is right doesn't mean that you can't learn something or understand or empathize from the other person. And the benefit there is there, which you might not think. If you think someone's wrong, why would I get a benefit from actually listening to or understanding from that person? The benefit is you can actually see and understand why that person has that point of view. And this is what I learned from that person who was, despite being very bigoted, I could understand why they held their opinion. They were pro cryptocurrency because they had a very strong mistrust for government, and they wanted a way to be able to circumvent government controls over monetary policy. I don't agree with that. I don't believe that that is necessarily a good thing. But I could see where his point was coming from. He came from a point where he did not like his government. He did not trust his government. He felt very unempowered, if that's even a word, from his government, and he needed crypto as a coping mechanism to be able to deal with that. He thought this was a way of taking power away from his government, that was, he thought, beneficial. Because I didn't just completely dismiss him, and because I entertained and led back and forth and actually tried to understand his position, I could see and understand why he would make that argument. Not only does that help me gain a bigger perspective of why other people will understand, it'll help me better discuss it with him. It'll help me keep an open dialogue. And if I at all want to change his view or have him empathize with me, it really helps to be open to the discussion. If you're not and you're closed off, well, what do you expect the other person to do? Is the other person going to listen to your side of the argument if you're just completely closed off and just going to, ban somebody or not be open to it? No, it's not going to be a good open discussion. If you're going to have a debate with somebody, it should be a debate. You should be open. You should challenge your thoughts. And I personally have gained a lot from this. I have learned different things about morality. I've learned different things about ethics by being open to different ways of thinking and different groups of thought. Not that I necessarily agree with them, not that I necessarily would adopt them, but sometimes you can pick up some bits and pieces, and sometimes you can kind of mold your own opinions by seeing ones that are opposed to yours. I think that's overall beneficial. The other thing is people can be incredibly toxic, especially over the internet. And that kind of toxicity only breeds more toxicity. When you're dismissive of somebody, whether you do it in a polite, or I saw both, the moderator was doing it in a very smarmy, backhanded kind of way, very pompous. The other person was just being very open and hateful. But both of them are negative. Both of them don't add people to your cause. you can only gain people to your cause by being open, by being polite, being receptive, instead of just creating echo chambers. And echo chambers are really negative for both sides, whether you think you're right or not. You don't see an opposing viewpoint, you don't challenge your own views, and really being rational is all about challenging your views. You need to be able to hold a mirror up to your own views and try to poke holes in them. That's one of the keys of being scientific and rational. If you cannot poke holes in your own theory, or at least attempt to, then you don't know if it is a really good one. You don't know if you have flaws. You become completely blinded to that, and that can end up with you following false information for a very, very long time. You see this in clinical research. When people don't actually question their preconceived notions, you can follow just wrong information for an incredibly long period of time, and that's really detrimental towards advancement. So I think it is good to be open. It is good to, this is kind of, if you want to talk about Christian dogma, this is where love your enemy comes from. You should love the person and try to understand and accept the person who has an opposing. Hey, sorry about that pause, the card was full. But it is good to be open to other people's viewpoints. It stops you from being blinded, stops you from getting stuck in an echo chamber. Please don't be hateful to other people who have different opinions, even if they are hateful, because it just hurts everything. One more thing is, if you do just shut someone down, block them, remove them from the conversation, that only creates, one, hostility, two, that person is going to only get more entrenched in their thoughts. And this is what I saw with that one person. He ended up getting banned, he ended up getting removed, and that, to him, only proved his point further. He was trying to say that it's an echo chamber. Guess what? You just banned someone with an opposing viewpoint. You just proved their point. He now thinks he is a martyr for his cause. He just thinks that now you have proven that I am right. He becomes more entrenched in his thoughts and feelings, and that's really not what you want to get. You want to actually have someone be open and challenge their own thoughts, and if you do something like that, well, you just made someone who's going to hold that opposing viewpoint forever. So if you actually have the goal of trying to create open minds and create open discourse and have people possibly challenge their own thoughts, doing something that really is counterproductive. It only creates, further apart echo chambers. It only entrenches people more in their previously held positions, and it really doesn't, in the long term, help things. It just slows down, eventually getting everybody to closer to the truth, which is really what our goal is. That's it for today's lecture. If you guys have any other topics that you'd like us to cover, please let us know in the comments. I am Dr. Frank with the Church of Rational Truth, signing off.